O'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call will show we have 3 supervisors absent. We still have 3 absent. I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda. Second. Motion by Supervisor Mickelson, second by Supervisor Gullickson. Any comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. We have no members of the public wishing to be heard. I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Supervisor Hunt, second by Supervisor Sikorsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Public hearing on the 2020 county budget.
Must be staying home because we're live streamed, so it's different this year. So I'll just go through the report. Obviously, first I'd like to thank the department heads and finance for all the work we did on the budget. Obviously, it takes a lot of time. Melissa and I met with each department at least once, sometimes more than once. And then essentially this is our guidelines that we put out in May. If you look down a little farther, it has the budget philosophy. This all goes out to the department heads. And then on page 3, that's my letter that I put out to the supervisors and then department heads, just explaining where the budget or what it looks like. We'll get into the details as we move through, but really it's the recommended budget highlights on the bottom of that first page. Again, it's stuff you guys have heard many times. Impact on the meth epidemic, maintain pay for performance, and then the new positions. We've gone through these before. Again, the only one that had levy that we added to was that CJCC position of around $5,000. The first one for CJCC, we didn't have to add levy, but we changed that from a contracted position to county position. The DHS, the first one, these were really, the DHS was to address the waiting lists that we're not allowed to have. First one was for CLTS, and then the next 2 were for adult and children for CCS. You can see the waiting list. That's what it was at the time. I don't know what those numbers are currently. And then environmental health. Angie, when we met with her environmental health person was about twice the average of the state. So we looked at adding a position there. I told her we had no levy for it, and she went back with her team and worked on a way to fund that position and came back with no levy impact for that position. And then the last one is the DOA IT. Even though it's in IT, it's really for the Recovery Wellness Consortium. And that has to do with an avatar software that they've been really struggling with. They really needed somebody. They did ask for 2 positions there, but after meeting with them, felt going forward with one to see how that impact and the change for the first year, and then we can look at that in the future. There were a few positions that we weren't able to fund that were requested. An IT position. Again, the IT position that I just talked about is for really DHS. It's not for IT. It's going to be housing IT, kind of like we do centralized financing. Just helps them coordinate and communicate. We think it's a good, we really talked a lot about that, where that should be located, but it will be in IT, but they'll physically be located in the DHS area. And then there was a half position foster care coordinator that was requested. We didn't have levy for that. And since then, the state has come through with that $25.5 million, I think was in the budget. I know we're going to be bringing that forward to get that to a full-time position. And then changes health insurance, the board approved those in September. They're in front of you. And then really we started adding last year on the next page, I think is probably the simplest way to look at, obviously, the levy from the year before to the current. Really the increases throughout it is for the PCR, which is the cost report for personnel. And there's a few things. The CJCC, we did add a little over 5,000 for that of levy for that position. Look at the district attorney one, that's 60,000. That really had to do with health insurance. You can really see the impact when, if there's no health insurance and somebody goes to a family insurance, it's a big impact on departments. You look at highway, it looks like there was a cut, but really that was that 200,000 that was put in there last year, and then bridge aid changed. To highlight the sheriff, all those admin, investigators, jail patrol, and telecom, that was either PCR or OT, additional overtime. And then the budget adjustment on the bottom there, that was for PFP and market analysis. And then insurance was property and liability went up quite a bit. And then libraries. The libraries is exempt from our levy limits, but obviously it goes to our total cost. And if you remember the county board, you guys increased by 2% over the next 5 years, and then their operation expenses went up quite a bit. So that was a pretty big impact. So if you look at the summary on the next page, it's consistent with the Chippewa County Strategic Plan. It's sustainable for 2021. It allows for current Chippewa County Board to address operation needs. And then the next, we talk about sales tax and how that's distributed. You see available sales tax was the 5.7. You can see how that was broken out over the tax credit, debt service, and airport, and that left about 2.2 million. And then you can see below that how that was broken out in the CIP. And then we just have pie charts because some people, can understand things visually different. So we just broke that out in the pie chart below that. Next page talks about the budget tax levy, the comparable. I thought it was interesting. Really, the only percentage changes are health and human services went from 15 to 14 in 5 years, and the transportation went from 17% to 18%. Even though obviously the overall pie got bigger, the percentages pretty much stayed the same from those years. I really like this next charts, I guess. It shows, I like to see history, and this really shows that. So the equalized valuation over from 14 to 20, from 19 to 20, the equalized valuation went up 441 million, 8.42%. That's a pretty hefty increase, as you can see, to comparable years. The tax rate, as a result, will go down on this recommended budget of 21 cents, or 5.8%. But property taxes, the total amount that we're taxing went up 407,000. So if you look at the allowable limit, you can see that the difference between the 19.7 million and 19.5 is at 169,000 below our allowable limit. And we talked about this several times. Next year, we're going to have to reduce how much we are for our debt levy. So that 169,000 is going to be washed out. So if there's anything you guys want to use that levy for, just be aware that it's not going to be sustainable as far as year in, year out. So I consider, look at it as one-time money if you guys decide to do anything with that for next year, because we're not going to have the capacity that we have this year. And then we added this net new construction. I think that's critical because it's really what we can increase over the last 12 years, or probably 11 years now. It'll be 12 years. Yeah, it's been 12 years already. We've had the zero levy increase or net new construction. So you can see that's really what the levy's been able to go up over the years. Over a 5-year average, that's been $278,000 roughly. So you can see what that increase has been. And then we just broke down percentages underneath that. And then we hear a lot about this, obviously, the next page, the general fund balance. Again, this has a lot to do with our bonding, how much our interest rates are for when we go for bonding our loans. We want to stay between that 30 and 40%. We're at 33.5. The percentage actually went down, even though Unreserved went up. It's because our reserve total designation went up too, so it's a percentage of that. And then again, below that, just break it out on a bar chart. And then really on the next page, we're essentially breaking out the same thing. This is more of a narrative. And then we have a comparable under that with a bar chart from 2014 to see what those percentages are. Again, we want to stay between that 30 and 40%. And then the budget summary. So the recommended budget is $78,732,363. Recommended tax levy is $19,543,812, which is an increase of 2.13%. And recommended tax rate is 3.43%, which is a decrease of 5.8%. It was 364 last year. So again, the past, current, and future bonding rate, keeping that at that 33.5% keeps us at a good number. County recommended tax rate of 3.43 is a reduction. So really you want to look at comparisons. And again, this is average, and it's if your house hasn't been reassessed. So if you had a $150,000 home last year and you have a $150,000 assessed home again this year, your tax rate, well, your taxes from the county will go down $31.50. I know on the paper it said it would go up, but it's actually going down. So there's a lot of factors to that, and we get phone calls sometimes of, you know, my taxes went up, you said they're going to go down, but obviously there's a lot of tax entities out there, and it can vary on when you get your assessment done. So then the bar chart below that really breaks down a $150,000 resident and where that percentages go, where it's paid or where it's expensed. And then the last is just budget expenses for 2020, and then the function by the function. And our strategic plan's the last page. Again, we're going through our strategic plan now, and it is utilized throughout this whole process. No member of the public, so I guess I can't get any questions.
All right. I guess we'll close the public hearing then. Reports. Randy, you don't have anything? Department reports, 2019 report of highway operations. Brian.
Good evening. Tonight's my annual report to the board, and I have a lot of information I want to share with you. A lot of what I'm showing you is basically a summary of what's in your green books that are on your tables. That's the new format of the report. We're trying to improve it each year, so if you have ideas for what you'd like to see next year, go ahead and make suggestions. I'm required by a state statute to give this presentation tonight. This is our annual meeting, and Statute 8301 says I have to give my presentation tonight. So I'm going to talk about the department, the committee, and staff, some of the financial reports, talk about projects this year and next year, equipment and vehicles, and then some performance measurements and some special projects that I want to highlight. Our committee is listed here. Glenn is our chair, Tom, Matt, Jim, and Michelle. This is our department. We took a photo at Safety Day. One of the employees brought in a drone from home and took a picture, so as long as you don't zoom in too close, we look pretty good in that picture. Some squinty eyes and weird faces, but yeah, Randy's in there. We have 75 employees in the department. 9 of us are salaried managers and 63 hourly operational staff. We have a fiscal manager, Joe Gutowski, who's here tonight. He's a DOA Finance Division employee that works at Highway, and we fund his salary at Highway. We have an account clerk, Roseanne, and our new administrative assistant, Tammy, who's also here tonight. And we try and hire about 10 seasonals. We don't always find that many. There's a real shortage of CDL drivers in the area. And honestly, a lot of these people are looking for full-time employment, so they come and get some experience, find a job elsewhere, or we hire them on full-time if we have a vacancy. So a good share of our hiring comes from those seasonal operators, but it's not always easy to fill them when we hire them. And then Fred has an engineering technician that reports to him in the summer. Our org chart, a lot of these hourly staff are county construction in the summer or state construction, and then they go to maintenance, winter maintenance in the winter, so they'll have 2 evaluators, 2 supervisors, a little bit unique. This report is our #1 report. We look at it all the time for highway. This is our non-lapsing fund balances, and so you can see all these funds carry over from year to year. A couple of things I want to highlight tonight. Winter maintenance, we're sitting pretty good in winter maintenance now. We started out with a surplus from last year. We're going to see about $140,000 more of the vehicle registration fee coming in yet this year, with about $400,000 on average for expenses these last 2 months of the year. And so we could be sitting at about $800,000 when the registration fee expires, which is a nice cushion to have if we have another winter like last winter, or anything like that in the next couple of years. We'll have that cushion. County maintenance, since this time we've received $400,000 more of our general transportation aids, so we've got the full $1.6 million now for GTA, and so that's not in the red anymore. And then the other fund, our gravel pits, looks really bad this time of year. We started out in the red. We've got about $266,000 in salt inventory sitting in that fund right now. When we get our salt shipments, they go into the gravel pits until it's placed on the roads. And so that kind of skews that number. And we also did a lot of work in the pits this year, getting them ready to crush next year. So the pits are looking really good. If you go out there, there's tons of material piled up and ready to go next year. Good material to be nice and dry. And so we're going to be sitting good next year. We won't have nearly the prep work next year that we had this year. One thing I want to point out, you don't see anything for state maintenance on here. All of our state maintenance work is a contract we have with the DOT. We're the only state in the country that does that, with the counties doing all the state maintenance. Reason I say that is because we get a lot of calls from people that are upset that we're out in the state, we're not out in the county. There's just different levels of service. We have a maintenance manual that we have to follow if we expect the state to pay us, and they've always paid us. So just keep that in mind. It's 2 different animals. If you see a number on the highway, it's not ours. We're just doing what the state wants us to do. If it's a county road, it's got a letter. 2019 bridge and culvert aid for the towns. This is a 50-50 program for the towns where they can get half their project paid for through the county. The county levies the other towns for that 50-50 share. So basically, we had a really big project in Anson that you can see in that picture there up on 120th Avenue. We just built that bridge for Anson and opened it this week. So that was probably the biggest project for the year, and then a lot of small stuff. The bills are just starting to come in now for the year. Bridge construction, a couple of things that stand out in this report. We haven't gotten our full reimbursement from the DOT for the Lake Wissota Bridge from a couple of years ago. We've got a change order. We're negotiating to get the final payment, so we're carrying a negative balance in that project until we get that sorted out with the state. We moved $275,000 from road construction into miscellaneous bridges, and we need to address the Double X Bridge down on the branch of the Paint Creek. We replaced that bridge with the miscellaneous bridge fund this year. You can see a picture of that bridge there. It was in really rough shape, and we were able to accelerate it with some savings. In the road construction project, you can see the savings is in that 1901 Highway M project up in Ruby. We made a mistake on our calculations, and we had $260,000 in savings approximately. So we're going to transfer that down into contingency, and we've moved $275 out of contingency to do that bridge. So it was timely because that bridge was getting really bad, and we were able to get both projects done. The other Highway M down in Wheaton, showing $164,000 in the red right now. We're going to see about $300,000 more state aid come in for that once we get our receipts processed. So that'll be fine at the end of the year. So road construction projects came in good for the year. For 2020, we're going to be doing, we're showing 8.6 miles of paving. In all likelihood, we're probably going to scratch those double S and M projects in New Auburn. Those are to be funded by frac sand when they're built. We don't have frac sand money coming in right now to pay for this sort of thing. They're all kind of on a holding pattern. So that project's pretty much shovel ready. We'll go ahead and do that as soon as the frac sand industry comes back. So we're doing the 6.8 miles on Highway F, and then the S&Q roundabout next year is the other big project. So that's why the mileage is a little bit down. We have that big roundabout project to do. For equipment, this is what we bought this year. We always buy the 3 patrol trucks. So that's a big chunk of the budget. We replaced 1 patrol superintendent pickup, and the old one's going on the auction right now. We bought a new wheel loader you see there, and then a new fork truck for the shop, portable traffic signals so we can close bridges and 1-lane closures overnight if we need to, and then a speed trailer to slow traffic down in our work zones, and portable air compressors. In 2020, we're going to buy the 3 patrol trucks. You can see the 2019 truck there that came in. You notice something different. It's got tandem axles, and that's something that we're trying for a couple of years here to see how the revenues come in from the state. They have a higher hourly rate, and they can carry a lot more material, both liquids and granular, so we can be out on the roads longer, better service, and more equipment revenues coming in to pay for them. So we've got 3 more trucks. We've already bid these out in anticipation of the budget passing and being able to get those ordered. The vendors are telling us it's going to be quite a while to get those built, so the sooner we can place our order, even though we're not paying for them right away, we can get our place in line and get them here by next winter. We're going to buy a pickup for the stockroom next year, and then we need to upgrade our fuel system because of the state mandate for containment. Non-highway fleet, and in your reports I put this year all the lists of every piece of equipment, about 500 pieces of equipment, and all 82 of the non-highway fleet vehicles. You can see what department they're in, what their price was when they were new, and so I've shown all that this year. I didn't put that in there last year because it takes up about 6 pages, but I think it's good information to have. This year we bought 3 utilities for sheriff, 2 caravans, 2 pickups for planning and zoning, 1 for facilities and parks, and 1 for land conservation. So those are all here now. We've got 26,000 sold so far. Anticipating next year to buy 1 caravan for ADRC, 4 utilities for the sheriff, one HVAC van for the sheriff. It's going to be a big investigation van that they need, and then 1 pickup for the sheriff. Some of the performance measurements that we use, every year we kind of look at what we did, so at a glance we can see how we compare to other years. 8.2 miles only for paving and 20.4 miles of chip seal. Both of those are obviously less than we'd like to be doing. We replaced 21 culverts. At the time we ran this report, we had done $775,000 in town work. That's now up to about $1.1 million. So we've done quite a bit more this last couple of weeks. And then that $107,000 for other departments is now about $119,000. So we've actually had to turn away some town work these last couple of weeks with this. The weather kind of took a turn on us, and we don't want to be paving when it's like this if we want to keep the quality that we want. Workers' comp is a direct result of our safety program. We only had 7 claims for workers' comp this year, 0 lost days, and $10,478 in expenses. So that we had a really good year for safety, and 5-year average would be $67,000. So I think that shows you we had a really good year. Hopefully we can keep that going. Our safety program is top notch. We have a safety work group, toolbox talks every month with the whole crew. 2 days of safety, 1 in the spring, 1 in the fall, and safety work group. We have tons of employee activities to be involved in safety, and we're very clear in the job descriptions what the limitations are and what they can lift and what they can't lift. Some special projects. I wanted to just talk about a couple of difficult bridge rehabs that we did. The Highway S and Y bridge rehabs, and the S bridge is out by the edge, Y up in Jim Falls. S, we replaced both expansion joints on each end, and then resealed the deck. And then we switched traffic around and detoured it the other way and did the Y bridge right after that. We did a bunch of deck repairs and replaced the failing approach pavement and sealed the deck. So we work really closely with AMPI and a lot of the other businesses, and then also emergency services, but also the festivals. We worked around Country Fest, Rock Fest, and Sturgeon Fest. We found the window that worked best for everybody was to do it after Rock Fest and get it done before Labor Day. So we threw a lot of bodies at these jobs to make sure we were in and out of there and didn't affect any of those festivals. Another challenging project, the Highway X pavement project in Lafayette, about 1.4 miles long. Issues out there were traffic and weather. We hit really bad weather when we were getting ready to pave. A lot of rain, a lot of wet gravel, and 7,500 cars a day is our busiest road in the county. So that was a lot of challenge, especially at rush hour. We have an issue, you may not know about it yet, but you will soon. It's the invasive plants that are coming into our county from the west. We have wild chervil and wild parsnip coming into the western part of the county, and lots of other nasty invasive plants that we need to deal with. So we've been working with the DNR and the DOT, and there's an outfit called the Lower Chippewa Invasives Partnership, and I attended a day of training with them, with one of my operators, and really learned some of the new techniques that are out there. We're using environmentally friendly herbicides to treat these, and then we're going to try and follow that up with different mowing techniques to eradicate the invasives. We don't want them to get like this and then mow them. This is a flowering plant of wild chervil. If we mow that right now and spread the seeds all over the county, it's really going to be a problem. So we're looking at plant growth restrictors that can slow the plants down, and then we can get out there at the normal time and mow it and kill the plant. So another project we did that was neat was 23 miles of crack sealing for the DOT on 27, 40, and 64. Completed that on time and within budget. Traffic was a major issue on these state roads. We had several near misses with our flaggers diving into the ditch to avoid being ran over. Our flaggers now carry air horns, so they have somewhat of a chance of warning the crew when the traffic's coming into the work zone. And so it's a really big problem. It's gotten a lot worse this year for some reason. We've noticed on the county jobs, state jobs. We've been working very closely with the sheriff on enforcement, but the laws really need to change. So I've been in Madison lobbying for the laws. We need to get flaggers the ability to take down license plates and that the sheriff can enforce citations. And then the next thing you're going to be hearing more and more about, if I have anything to say about it, is hands-free. There's a bill in the legislature now that's been drafted, Assembly Bill 582 and Senate Bill 522, to make hands-free driving the law in Wisconsin to match what about 20 other states have done. Some of those states report 20% decrease in traffic fatalities by having hands-free, so it seems like a no-brainer to me. Town of Eagle Point, we did a neat reconstruct for them. This was a road that they took over from a developer that was very poorly built. A lot of clay and organic soils from the old ditch that were just flopped into the road and paved over. And so this road failed really bad. We came in and subcut it and put in a 2-foot sand lift and geogrid and gravel. And it's a rock hard road now. It's really good. They're going to pave it next year though. So that's kind of it for my report. There's a lot more information in your book. I hope you can look at it, and if you have any questions, I can take those.
Supervisor Thornton.
Brian, can you update the board on Calvin Bridge?
I can in general. We've got in the next agenda packet already, we put a big PowerPoint presentation together. It might be better if we just do that next week. I'll have Fred here.
Supervisor Hartman.
Couple of questions, Brian. What's the holdup with the payment on the X Bridge from the state?
Basically a disagreement in quantities. They didn't agree with our quantities of gravel and asphalt that we placed when we built the road, the approaches. We've been going back and forth documenting. We've got good documentation on what was used. And now it's just kind of the process that it's going through. They're not arguing the quantities anymore, but now it's just a matter of getting the payment. They have approved a contract change order.
Okay, thank you. One other question, is there any money in the budget for highway security for 2020? I know you had mentioned something at the highway committee meetings
No,
about that.
that's in our CIP for 2021, I believe is phase one.
Okay,
Phase one is in the Chippewa area, and then phase two in the following year is the outlying shops and the pits.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Brian. Business items, resolution 41-19.
Resolution 41-19, resolution to approve funds for county aid construction and maintenance during calendar year 2020. We're reading by title only per the county board chair.
Look for a motion to approve. Motion by Supervisor Thornton, second by Supervisor Sikorsky. Any questions, comments? Let's vote. Release. 12 yes, 0 no. Resolution 42-19.
Resolution 42-19, resolution to approve county aid in 2020 for bridges and culverts. Again, reading by title only.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion by Supervisor Gullickson, second by Supervisor Mickelson. Any questions or comments? Vote. Release. 12 yes, 0 no. I'd look for a motion to approve the 2020 county budget. Second. Motion by Supervisor Sikorsky, second by Supervisor Thornton. Any discussion? Let's vote. Release. 10 yes, 2 no. All right. Any communication? Motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Well, you can only beat your head against the wall, so.